Hello again, everybody. Zach Attack is here with my WWE Raw review for tonight, Monday, July 1st, 2013. Live from, I forgot where it was, but in my mind, Raw tonight was, okay. The last couple was been good. This probably okay Raw main event. Okay main event. Matches made for Money in the Bank, including the pre-show match. By my mind, the crowd sucked tonight. The crowd was dead on most occasions. Really acknowledged points where the crowd was dead. There were some people that cheered for good, but the crowd there was kind of a weak crowd tonight. Most like every other Raw crowd, unless you're in New Jersey, day after Mania. But still, it was just an okay Raw tonight. There's some okay things, some decent action. More matches than last week, but more silly endings, which I refer to. Now with our first segment, which involved the 6 out of 7 participants in the Raw WWE Championship Money in the Bank match. All but Wyatt Van Dam was there, because of course RVD was not gonna show up until the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Case in point why I think the crowd sucked, even when RVD's name was mentioned, no one popped for him, like they did at the Payback pay-per-view in Chicago when he was announced to come back. So Dave Bryan kicked it off. Dave Bryan kicked off this segment involving ladders, saying that I have been the champion. I have won Money in the Bank before. The Dynasty All-Stars Money in the Bank. I kind of mentioned that Kane was Money in the Bank winner, but I kind of forgot to mention him. There was four Money in the Bank winners in the All-Star Money in the Bank compared to I call it the mid-card Money in the Bank, the SmackDown one. So D. Bryan started up the conversation saying it's been way too long since I've been champion. And of course, here comes the man that beat him in 18 seconds at Mania last year to end that title reign, of course, referring to Sheamus. Then gradually, everybody involved in the Raw Money Bank, besides RVD, like I mentioned, came out gradually. Orton came out, Kane, Christian, and then CM Punk, who got the biggest pop out of all of them besides D. Bryan. In that same month for this crowd. Anywho, because Punk said, I don't want to do the obvious thing and come out. But Christian said that I'm the best. Well, best in the world came out to confront Christian and all the other participants. Punk's the only guy who's won the Money Bank match twice. There is some clarifications. Edge has won the briefcase twice, but not the match twice. Because, of course, the first time Edge won the briefcase in the match. But he won the briefcase back in 2007 in a one-on-one match against Mr. Anderson. He didn't really win the ladder match. Punk's the only one who won the ladder match twice to get the briefcase. He could be the only guy to win it 3 times. But as it did, tensions were running high at that point. There was even some jokes made about everybody. Even the whole 1-800 fella joke was tossed around by D. Bryan. And then indeed, Kane and D. Bryan got into each other's faces a little bit throughout this segment, which led to kind of a standoff with everybody. And Steve was like, I don't want anyone to protect me. As Owen was ready to beat up on Bryan, Kane kind of stood in the way. And as D. Bryan and Kane were having a showing match, Kane got RKO'd by Randy Orton, which led to everybody being in a standstill, waiting for a showdown. But Christian and Punk were the first ones to be smart, should I say, and escape without any harm. As indeed, everybody walked off as Orton was standing tall after RKO'ing Kane. RKO, Randy Orton would indeed be taking on Kane later on in the evening. Kane, of course, wrestled Orton last week. And, of course, Kane lost with a little inadvertent help from D. Bryan, getting pushed into an RKO. So now Kane got a rematch with Orton tonight. Like I mentioned, they'll wrestle later on in this broadcast. And D. Bryan would be named the special guest referee, which made Kane very angry, especially after what we saw in the beginning segment. So on with our next matchup. Our first matchup of the evening, should I say, which involved the 6-man team of the Usos, the #1 contender for the tag team titles, teaming up with Christian, which, like I said, proved the crowd sucked. There was no pop for Christian. Even I noticed that. I was like, the crowd sucked for Christian. They took on the Shield, the U.S. champ, and the tag champs. Dean Ambrose, who's in the SmackDown, or I call it the mid-card, Money in the Bank, teaming up with, of course, his fellow Shield members, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. Of course, those two will be defending the tag team championships against the Usos on the pre-show. That's why another title match is on the pre-show. In this case, the tag team titles on the pre-game. That's disappointing. But it was on the pay-per-view last month, so it makes up for it. You know, there was a tag team title match on the pay-per-view last month in the Extreme Rules, so at least they're not on the main card this time around. But at least they've been on the main card before. Now, Usos and Christian got the victory last week against the Shield, with Christian pinning Dean Ambrose, and it seemed that it was going to be that way again, as Usos and Christian had their way for the beginning of the matchup. But like every other Shield six-man tag, of course, the Shield find a way to get the advantage in their corner. Of course, the Usos and Christian flew high in the sky and really triple team on the Shield pretty good. That was until indeed Ambrose got in and dominated until he got the hot tag to Reigns. And they destroyed the Usos for the next couple moves. With some decent double team moves with Rollins getting in as well. Then Christian got the hot tag following the ambush and the isolation of Jimmy Uso. Christian, of course, came flying back in with some decent high-flying moves, including a drop kick. But then indeed, Christian was going for his big move, of course, the kill switch. And he did nail it after the clothesline attempt by Ambrose. And Christian attempted, like I said, after the kill switch, attempted to pin the U.S. champ again. But indeed, Rollins and Reigns and Usos got it on and falling off outside the ring. But indeed, thanks to a interference by Rollins after Ambrose shoved Christian in the corner and got nailed by Rollins, got distracted and a hit from Rollins, helped Ambrose get the roll-up and the victory over Christian, getting payback for what happened on SmackDown last week. So there goes the Shield. After a two-match losing streak in six-man tag action, or at least losing two matches in the last couple weeks, finally wins another six-man tag, dominated over Christian and the Usos. It's kind of weird that the Shield has beaten John Cena and all them, yet they lose to what many consider mid-carders like Christian and the Usos. So there you go. Maybe Christian will get a U.S. title shot one of these days. Of course, Usos are going to get a tag team title match against the Shield members Rollins and Reigns, of course, on the pregame of the Money in the Bank pay-per-view online. So there you go. The Shield gets the victory. Now on to our next matchup, which was indeed a matchup involving, of course, the couple members of each Money in the Bank match. Not exactly, but indeed, we had Jinder Mahal, member of the Job Squad. I mean, the 3MB. The Job Squad 2.0. Well, it was another job, and I do mean a job, for Mr. Jinder Mahal as he took on the number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship, Dolph Ziggler. Of course, tonight's main event will be Champion vs. Champion John Cena against Alberto Del Rio, with, of course, Mr. Rodriguez, storyline injured after the Fiesta Del Rio on SmackDown last week. Indeed, it was an easy win for Ziggler. What can I say? Ziggler not being accompanied by AJ and Big E, thus planting more hits and planting more seeds for the impending Dolph Ziggler face turn. Especially he's facing Jinder as a heel. So like I said, Del Rio, Ziggler is indeed a face again for sure. Now on with our next, like I said, this matchup. Ziggler gets the victory with the zigzag. Indeed, Ziggler has been very impressive ever since losing the world title. Of course, he came back last week. Been attacking Del Rio for the last couple of weeks. He's been very more aggressive. Of course, Jinder tried to get some offense in, but again, Dolph Ziggler got the easy victory after the zigzag. And after the match, Slater and Drew McIntyre did get attacked for their helping with zigzag for Mr. Drew and nailing Slater to the steps like that. Like that attack, it showed that Ziggler is indeed aggressive and ready to go to regain and retain the World Heavyweight Championship at Money in the Bank. That post-match attack on 3MB shows that Ziggler's ready for Del Rio. So there you go. Ziggler gets the victory against Jinder Mahal. Now goes the power struggle between McMahon's continued on as both all McMahon's said their pieces about things. Triple H being happy about Vicky being involved in making the big main event tonight. Loving the fact that it's a big main event on Wall with Cena and Del Rio, like I mentioned. Vince was not happy because it's basically giving a pay-per-view match that should be a pay-per-view match for free. Then Stephanie tossed her 2 cents in and revealed that next week, Vicky Guerrero will be getting a job evaluation. So, there you go. And of course, all 3 McMahons will be in the ring. Basically feed more into the storyline of these 3 having a power struggle. So, it'll probably be a very interesting segment tomorrow or next week with Vicky Guerrero once again stuck in the middle, especially with this job evaluation announced next week. There was something else also announced next week. That indeed, next week, they're coming. Yep, the Wyatt family are set to make the debut next week. I think many people's like, these promos have been very creepy, scary, and I think WWE's promoting the hell out of this debut. It's probably one of the most hyped debuts in a while. Some would say Fandango was very hyped. Some would say that Borders Clay until he changed his gimmick from a big bad monster to disco got a big hype. But I think they're really putting an effort into this Wyatt family. They're really building up the Wyatt family. I do like the direction of the videos. I do like them. It sets the mood. The whole mood of their storyline, but being about feeding off people. And I think they should have just surprised people. In my mind, it's kind of a bad, like some people, and I would agree that it's kind of a bad move to announce the debut. For a group like this, they need to surprise people. They don't need to be announced. They shouldn't say they're coming next week. It ruins the suspense on trying to figure out when they're going to debut. I kept figuring out for weeks, when are they going to debut? When are they going to debut? They should just surprise us, but they didn't. And they announced that next week they're making the debut. So it's kind of like, it's kind of weird that they did that. That they decided to announce the debut instead of like having it be a surprise. So there you go. Now, our next match, which begins some silliness. It would be Randy Orton taking on Kane, with, of course, like I mentioned, Daniel Bryan as your special guest referee and make up for kind of intentionally just costing Kane his match against Orton last week on SmackDown. Of course, these 2 men would be involved in the Raw Money in the Bank as well as Bryan. And of course, Bryan became a very assertive referee in this matchup, very more intrusive. And there was one move that was copied, and you would notice it as Orton and Kane was struggling for control. Kane came with his big strength and power, and Orton came back with some great power moves and fast moves. And of course, there was one move when Orton delivered a drop kick in midair as Kane was going for a big move up the top. And Orton drop kicked him from the top. Some little guy copied that later on in his match. Cena copied that same move from Orton, the drop kick in midair when someone was going up the top. But I ain't tremendous. Cena's had better agility than Orton did. But as Orton was getting back control following that big move, of course, Orton was mad at the referee. And it seemed like Bryan was protecting Kane as Orton was blocked by Bryan. As Orton was in the corner, and Bryan got shoved by Orton, and the match was called by Bryan, costing Orton the match at the time of disqualification. But Kane didn't want to win that way. He didn't want the cheap win with Bryan disqualifying Orton. So Bryan, the referee, decided to restart the match after Kane acknowledged him to. Then indeed, Kane and Orton got it on. It was an okay matchup. You know, and then, like I said, that's when, in this part of the match, that's when Orton drop kicked him in the midair. And then Orton did run a swinging DDT once, and then got caught with a choke slam by Kane till Orton kicked him and delivered the backbreaker. And then that's when Orton was ready to seal the deal on Kane when he did the second attempt at the middle rope hangman DDT. Nailed it. And then indeed, it failed that Orton was going to get the victory with the RKO on Kane. That was, as Kane was getting up, D-Bry kind of blocked him from getting the RKO on Kane. And as Orton was being distracted by the referee, D-Bry kind of standing in the way of Orton delivering the RKO on Kane. Kane delivered a big boot on Orton, and then Kane pinned him, and D-Bry, fast count, quick count, 1, 2, 3. So Kane got a cheap win at first with the DQ until the match restarted, and Kane still got a cheap win with Daniel Bryan kind of helping Kane with the quick count after distracting Orton from delivering the RKO. But Kane didn't want that victory. He hated the fact that Bryan had to help him to win. They didn't need D-Bry's help, and D-Bry did eat an RKO for his helping from Orton. So Orton feels like he's back in the hunt, that he's a hungry man, a desperate man, wanting another championship. It's been about 2 years since Orton's been a world champion, or any champion for that matter, because he lost the World Heavyweight Championship at, I think it was Night of Champions, 2011 against Mark Henry, who has been a world champion and wants to be WWE champion, as we all know. He'll be taking on John Cena at Money in the Bank. So there you go. Kane gets the victory with a little inadvertent quick count help by Daniel Bryan, and of course Orton wasn't happy about it. Now, on with our next match, which involved a member of each Money in the Bank as Fandango. Made his return tonight. It was his first match since suffering a concussion. Of course, he'll be involved in the mid-card Money in the Bank, as I call it. He'll be, of course, wrestling against a lot of people. You got Sandown, Cody Rhodes, Ray Barrett, Antonio Cesaro, Dean Ambrose, and a man who also would return tonight, and I'll mention that later, Jack Swagger. Now, like I said, on this match, Fandango against Sheamus. Now, a little mention, like, as Sheamus was controlling the match and dominating over Fandango, Michael Cole acknowledged Sheamus' accomplishment, that Sheamus is a 2-time WWE champion, 2-time world champion, and a king in the ring. Hey, Michael Cole, you forgot Royal Rumble winner, dumbass. Forgot Royal Rumble winner, which is true. And there's one thing Sheamus wants to do that everybody else needs to do when you become a big guy, become Money in the Bank winner. That would be very accomplishing for Sheamus. You know, be king of the ring, Royal Rumble winner, former world champion, former WWE champion. I think he was a former U.S. champion. I think he was a former IC champion. I don't think he's been tag champion, unless I'm wrong. But he would become those things, and of course the Money in the Bank winner and Royal Rumble winner as well. But Fandango danced around a little, avoiding contact from Sheamus, and then Sheamus tried a little dancing of his own. It was kind of silly, but weird and funny. But TV PG funny. Anyway, Fandango had no offense in the beginning, with Sheamus basically dominating the matchup. That wasn't until Fandango, even getting the chops from the middle rope by Sheamus, delivered 2 big kicks. That's all he did. Like these 2 big kicks, they were very hard. They got a chin lock on, or headlock, whatever you want to call it, on Sheamus, trying to weaken him down to try to get the victory. There wasn't, like I said, Sheamus came flying back and did the chops on the apron at that time. And of course, Fandango got enough punishment from Sheamus and took enough. He had enough of the punishment given and dashed out by Sheamus. So Fandango got counted out. So Sheamus got the victory by count out. So we had a quick count, weird count out, quick count by D-Bry, and now we had a count out. Well, the silly endings continued in our next match as Ryback Goldberg, Wyatt, what you want to call him, took on The Miz with Chris Jericho at ringside. He'll be facing Wyatt at the pay-per-view. Speaking of the pay-per-view, The Miz will get his rematch, his one-on-one rematch against Curtis Axel for the Intercontinental Championship. As we all know at Payback, Miz never got pinned for the Intercontinental Championship. As we all know, Curtis Axel basically stole the victory from The Miz, pinning Wade Barrett as he was caught in the figure four by Miz. So, like I said, Miz never got pinned. So, Miz gets his rematch at Money in the Bank for the IC Championship. Till then, he's in his match against Ryback. But, like I said, Jericho at ringside. And Ryback seemed very strong. Of course, coming into it as one of his very first matches back after losing to Cena at Payback. And Ryback has been more aggressive than ever, trying to regain his spot and try to go back in the title hunt and be once again considered for the WWE Championship. As indeed, Ryback was dominating over Miz with his strong power moves. Of course, Miz came flying back with some quick, high-flying moves, basically fast speed moves. Going for his big splash in the corner, and it seemed that Miz had everything his way, going for the big, fast moves, and basically focusing on the leg at one point. Ryback kind of landed gingerly on the knee, and indeed, Miz basically countered, basically had a target. Went for the target that was the knee of course, Ryback. Indeed, weakened the knee so much he was ready to deliberately go for at one point. But indeed, as Ryback was trying to get out of the move, and as Miz is weakening it even more, Ryback called off the match. Now, like I said, the silly endings continued. The quick count from D-Boy, the count-out victory for Sheamus, and now another silly ending tonight with Ryback calling off a match because of injury, storyline or not. And Chris Jericho had the perfect nickname for Ryback at that point. Cryback. Oh, Ryback wanna go away. We don't need injury. It's kind of weird. Like Ryback had the ambulance match with Cena. Now he needs a ambulance after losing the Miz after calling off the match because of his we don't need injury. Like the big, bad, scary Ryback calling off the match for me. We don't need injury. So there you go. Miz gets a cheap stoppage victory over Ryback. Let me that match stoppages in the last couple of weeks due to injury. Like 2 weeks ago, D-Boy really got injured in that match against Orton 2 weeks ago. But who knows if this injury involving Ryback is real or not. But indeed gives Jericho a target for his match, the knee. And of course, it could give Jericho big ammo for promos against Ryback in the week to come. Because next week's the last Raw before Money in the Bank. So I think Jericho can make another big promo about Ryback being Cryback. So now on to our next segment, which involved the number one contender for the World Championship, Mark Henry. We saw a career retrospective earlier. Indeed, Mark Henry was indeed very amped up and motivated for his match against Cena. There's been a lot of bullshit in the back. And it was not intimidated by anything, especially when the crowd was saying what a lot. Then Mark Henry's worked his ass off. There's been politics and jealousy preventing him from getting the championship that he deserved, the WWE Championship. He's been a world champion. He's been an IC champion, European champion, tag champion, hardcore champion, but he's never been the WWE Champion despite all the work he has had for being a power wrestler. And indeed, Mark Henry was happy that he's got the chance. Then to fool John Cena, fool the fans, making the fans eat every word, hang on every word like puppets, faking the retirement, trolling the fans with his retirement to get what he wants, a championship match. Then he's indeed gonna beat John Cena's ass as he faced the camera at a close-up. Extreme close-up! Whoa! Whoa! Little Rainsford reference. What? JBL made an 80s reference on the show. I can make a 90s reference on this review. Rainsford with the kind of extreme close-up on Mark Henry, saying that he's ready to beat up Cena at the pay-per-view. Now on with the next matchup, which involves CM Punk being reluctant to team up again with Curtis Axel against the PTP part-time players, of course, stemming from Curtis Axel coming in to save CM Punk from the double team post-match attack from the part-time players last week. Of course, Punk was not happy with not Heyman, like the whole Heyman-Punk thing. Punk still has respect for Heyman despite this whole issue with them, especially with Brock Lesnar, who once again didn't show up. But I think that, like I said, building more for SummerSlam. I bet you Lesnar may come back at the Money in the Bank to build up the match for SummerSlam where it belongs. It will be belonging. So the Axel and CM Punk were reluctant tag partners. And of course, Punk wasn't happy to team up with Axel and didn't want Axel to help him. And indeed, these two reluctant partners had a rough start as Axel started the match up after he led Punk in at first, then blind tagged himself in and basically got in for the first half of the matchup. And every time he had an opportunity to tag in Punk, he said, yeah, he wanted to do it for himself. Of course, the fans were very angry, like, we want Punk. Even Punk was getting aggravated. He was getting antsy. He was getting impatient with Axel hogging it. And the Steve Young and Dennis O'Neil dominated over Curtis Axel in the corner as Axel continuously refused to get Punk in the match. And I love PTP. Like I said, I've been saying this. I'm a kind of a mark for PTP. They're decent wrestlers. They have good personalities. I just wish they were pushed a lot more. Especially after that match last week between D Young and CM Punk last week, when CM Punk made Young look very good last week. But then finally, after minutes of being isolated in a corner and refusing to tag in Punk and get his butt whipped double team moves by D Young and, of course, Dennis O'Neil, Curtis Axel finally fought back. He did actually wrestle decently this night. And indeed, after some decent offensive moves trying to fight back, Axel finally got the tag in the Punk after being taken down. The Punk came in with the House of Fire, coming in after the hot tag, coming in aggressively, taking on both men, before, of course, delivering on the big moves that CM Punk is known for. Delivering the big knee in the corner with the Bulldog, following the big elbow, and delivering the GTS on Darren Young. But as Punk was ready to pin Young following the GTS, Dennis O'Neil came in. Punk tossed him against the rope. And unfortunately, Punk was in the corner and got blind tagged back in again from Curtis Axel. Basically, Axel stole the victory. Like, Punk did all the damage. Punk did a GTS on Young. Then after Punk tossed O'Neil off, after O'Neil tried to block Punk from pinning, Punk was once again blind tagged by Axel, blind tagged himself back in and getting the pin on Young, basically stealing the victory and taking the victory for himself after Punk did all the dirty work. Punk was once again not happy with Axel. Case in point, like I said, Punk proved once again why he wasn't happy to team up with Axel, especially with Axel stealing the victory, getting the victory for the team, but stealing a victory nonetheless from CM Punk. Now, on to our next matchup, which involved Alicia Fox against Caitlyn. Typical Divas match. Alicia Fox tried some good offense, but of course, Caitlyn got the victory after the spear. But as Caitlyn tried to bounce back after the numerous embarrassments from AJ once again, here comes the Divas champ AJ to once again embarrass her. Of course, airing some photos of Caitlyn on the Diantron. Then indeed, Caitlyn will probably get a rematch against Caitlyn. I predicted it last week that AJ will wrestle Caitlyn probably in a rematch at Money in the Bank. That should be the pre-show, not the tag team title match. Seriously, the Divas match should be the pre-game. So there you go. Caitlyn wins. Confrontation again with AJ. Let's move on. So, there you go. Now, like I said, we had segments throughout the evening once again with Vicky Guerrero being stuck in the middle, about getting frustrated with this power control, with McMahon's pulling her in all different directions. That, of course, led towards the announcement of the job evaluation next week where I think this whole power struggle storyline will really hype into overdrive. Now, our next match would involve two members of the SmackDown mid-card Money in the Bank getting it on, as Cody Rhodes, accompanied by Damien Sandow, took on Antonio Cesaro, not before being joined by the returning Jack Swagger. Swagger, who's of course in the SmackDown Money in the Bank as well, is returned tonight to be in Cesaro's corner, as now Cesaro is now being managed by Jack Swagger's manager, Zeb Coulter. I think it's a good move from Cesaro. Glad Cesaro got rid of the yodeling gimmick. He realized back out of nowhere. Because, of course, he got the yodeling gimmick just as he was losing the U.S. Championship to Kofi Kingston. And he finally ditched it. And I think he's going in the right direction with Zeb Coulter. With the whole We the People, Tea Party, capitalist thing. Some people agree with Zeb Coulter's views. Some don't. And see about that. Now, with Swagger back in the corner. Back in that, well, he didn't return to action, but he was back on Raw tonight, accompanying Cesaro to the ring. And indeed, two decent overall wrestlers got it on. It's Cody got some decent moves in there. But of course, Cesaro, being the hard knocks, bare knuckles wrestler that he is, very no nonsense wrestler, came in with some big moves for himself. Down with some heavy hits. And of course, the big uppercut sent Cody rocked, got Cody rocked before delivering the neutralizer for the victory. So of course, Cesaro with his bare knuckles, hard hitting style got the victory over the finesse of Cody Rhodes. In this, of course, the smarts of Cody Rhodes, even with Sandow in the corner of Cody. As it is, Cesaro gets himself momentum for the ladder match for the Money in the Bank World Heavyweight Championship briefcase. Now on with our main event. Champion versus champion. Very hyped tonight. John Cena, the WWE Champion, taking on Alberto Del Rio, the World Champion. Of course, these two have wrestled many times before. When Cena was wrestling Del Rio many times for the WWE Championship in the fall of 2011. So now they're both champions. And I think, if I'm correct, I think Jerry Lawler during this match said, when he was reviewing all the old champions, I thought he said WWF. Did he say WWF? I think he did. It sounded like he did. Anyway, of course, Super Cena taking on Del Rio. Then indeed, Cena came in, of course, coming in with his own usual moves. You know what? And I've been saying this all night about the crowd sucking. You know what's a bad crowd when you hear grown men saying, let's go Cena. You know it's a bad WWE crowd when grown men are chanting, let's go Cena, when the grown men should be saying Cena sucks. Like you hear like, let's go Cena, Cena sucks. You know, the song grown men are like Cena. The Bobby Virgins. Anyway, of course, Cena came in with his own typical moves. And like I said, Cena did the same drop kick in the air move that Orton did earlier on, but like I said, I think Cena had more accuracy with it, more intense with it. And that's the only positive thing I'm going to say about Cena. Anyway, as Cena was indeed combining, of course, Del Rio, focusing on the arm. Of course, that's Del Rio's thing, wiggling the arm, ready for the cross arm breaker. And indeed, Cena tried to fight back, but Alberto was very aggressive. Nailing Cena outside the ring, taking him outside, nailing him against the ring balls and all that. But indeed, it was an okay main event. You know, there was the last 10 minutes was pretty good with like decent counters. You know, each guy counting out of each other. Like one of my favorite spots in the match was midway towards the end of the match, where I think Cena was going for the FU, then Alberto counted it to the cross arm breaker before Cena counted it to the STFU. I think it's when I had a suspicion that one of either Cena or Del Rio's number one contenders, whether it was Mark Henry or Dolph Ziggler, would get involved. Well, both would eventually get involved in the outcome of this matchup. But indeed, after numerous counters from both men, of course, both men went for the big moves, like I said, with that big counter. like I said, that counter move, like the sequence of events with Cena going for the FU, with Alberto countering to the cross-arm breaker, then Cena going to the SCFU, that spot led towards the distractions to begin. As Cena was ready to make Alberto tap out to the STFU, Mark Henry came down to the ring, and it looked like Mark Henry was going to beat up Cena. But with that distraction for Mark Henry walking the ringside, that helped Del Rio getting another big kick to the head of Cena and was going for the victory. That was until Dolph Ziggler came into the picture. Like I said, both Dolph and Mark Henry would both get involved. If Dolph Ziggler got involved, it looked like Dolph Ziggler was going to get involved physically, but with Dolph on the top rope, Alberto got distracted, walked into the FU from Cena, and a 1-2-3 victory for John Cena. As both Rumble contenders distracted their opponents, but it was Dolph Ziggler who got the better distracting Alberto enough to get the FU from Cena. And then Cena gets the victory. I predict next week we're going to have a big tag match. Because next week is the last Raw before Money in the Bank. Cena and Dolph Ziggler teaming up against Mark Henry and Alberto. That's what I'm predicting that could possibly happen. These two teams possibly facing off before Money in the Bank. It looked like Mark Henry and Cena were going to finally get involved physically after the matchup. As after the matchup, Mark Henry walked with the WWE Championship, and I thought he was going to nail Cena with it. But anytime he was going for the attack, I think Cena saw it coming. Like, Cena kept hesitating. Like, every time Cena was going for the belt, Mark Henry was like going for Cena, and Cena would stop. Like, kind of like weird sequence of events as Cena walked out with the championship without getting an attack from Mark Henry. So it's kind of like a weird segment to end Raw with Henry and Cena close to blows, but never happened. I'm predicting on my attack line today that there would be some sort of physical altercation between Mark Henry and Cena, where that didn't exactly happen. Maybe the physical altercation will finally happen next week on Raw, the last Raw before the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Of course, next week we're going to see a Vicky Guerrero job evaluation, plus the debut of the Wyatt family. Like I said in the beginning of the midway towards the video, that I think they should have just kept the debut a surprise instead of announcing it that they're coming next week. So there you go. That is my WWE Raw review for tonight. I'll see you all later. And have a happy 4th of July, everybody. Happy Independence Day on Thursday. If you live in America. Happy Canada Day, by the way, for Canadians out there. Like I say, early happy 4th for all you Americans watching. Happy Independence Week, everybody. With that in mind, you've been attacked by the review from Zach. Thank you all very much for watching. See you all later. Yeah.